What up?
Hey, how's it going? What's going on with you today?
Oh, let me tell you.
Okay.
Since you ask.
All right.
Duh. I've got something to tell you today, and it's a little bit science, a little bit history. Let's call it shistory, if you will.
Can we call it...
Nope, not gonna do that.
His science?
That's fair.
Can we call it his science?
Science? I'll tell you, and you let me know.
All right. Cool.
I'm gonna tell you today, and I take this personally, but about Mike, the Headless Chicken. Yes, he has a name. You want me to tell you why he has a name? I'll tell you why he has a name. Because this chicken lived for 18 months after its head was cut off. Yes.
That seems excessive.
Yes, and see, that's what I thought. I don't like...
really...
sounds fake.
It does sound fake.
It's what I thought, right? Because I was like, why would it be alive? How would it be alive? Because, okay, so, and then part of me was like, you know, I've heard stories where they get their heads cut off. Back in the day, people want a chicken and they go cut their heads off, and then it's almost like a running joke in like historical fiction, right?
Uh-huh.
Of any kind, movies or books, where they're like, and then the chicken ran around without its head, right? Like,
right.
That's a thing.
That's a thing that happens.
But
yes.
But I thought that it would be, you know, like an hour tops.
Max, yeah.
And so then part of me was like, you know, maybe it was like a random neighbor that saw it, and, you know, another neighbor saw it, and they just like weren't keeping track of the time, right? And
sure.
It was just like one of those things that like, okay, not the case. Okay, so this chicken hatched in 1945 and it died in 1947. And let me tell you how we know that. Okay?
Okay.
It was part of a bunch, so they knew when it hatched, and they knew when it died, because at the time of its death, it was part of a sideshow attraction. Okay?
Okay.
So, Mike the Headless Chicken was the headline of his act, I guess. Whatever. The title of his act. That sounds a thing. And so, obviously lots of questions, right? So let me try to organize this. It's a jumble in my brain. But so basically they fed it through a dropper, and it was discovered. It was discovered later. So it's like esophagus was open. That's so gross, but it is what it is, okay? So it's like esophagus was still open, right? Uh-huh. And they discovered later that somehow whoever cut this chicken's head off had severed the head, right? But that the jugular vein was missed, and like not enough for it. Like it was missed in the sense of like it wasn't enough blood coming out, and so a clot formed.
I didn't even know that chickens or birds at all had jugular veins, but I guess it makes sense that they would also have those. Yeah, go ahead. Go on.
Apparently. I don't know. And I also did not, because then I was like, okay, but like brains are a thing, right? And I know that chickens aren't known as like the most intelligent animal, but you know, brain stems are a thing, you know? And it does turn out that they missed most of the brain stem in the beheading of poor Mike.
Okay.
But that birds also have a secondary organ that, when I was looking at things, it's in quotes that it's the balance organ. It's a lumbosacral.
Lumbosacral.
Which so just in the knowledge that I have of anatomy and Latin medical terms in general, not of chickens specifically, but lumbosacral to me says, you know, like lower back essentially. So I imagine over its dinosaur back legs, that controls almost entirely. So this organ on a chicken and birds, all birds, it's not just chickens, but birds. So I imagine also dinosaurs, which is a whole other rabbit hole. I hate that word.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's their balance and their back leg function that's like separate from their brain function. Okay? Yes. Here's my question, though. Okay, so you go out, you want some dinner, you're gonna butcher your chicken and have a chicken dinner, right?
Sure.
And your chicken doesn't die immediately. Okay, we've established that that's like a
normal
thing.
Yeah.
Okay? But like, at what point do you just decide, I'm just going to continue to let this chicken live and feed it with a dropper versus like, maybe I should try again for my dinner.
Yeah. Because also, okay.
So here's another, I feel, important fact in the thought process. Sorry, I'm going to throw this in there. So it became a sideshow attraction. Somebody noticed within a month, I believe, of the botched butchering. So almost immediately became part of this sideshow attraction, right? And at the height of fame, his owner was earning $4,500 a month. A month.
In 1940 something.
In the 1940s, yeah. 45 to 47. So in today's money, that's $54,600 a month.
Great Googly.
So I understand why you would continue feeding it with the dropper eventually. But where that transition comes into effect, where you go from, I have this poor chicken wandering around, not dying. I did want dinner. There was a reason they were, like, taking the chicken. I mean, is it 8 hours later? And and I don't know a whole lot about the processing of animals, but I do know bare minimum, hunting a deer. You have to do things very soon when you're hunting so that the meat doesn't go bad.
Right.
And so I was like, I feel like, maybe after a week or so, that's where their head was at. Not Mike's head, unfortunately, but that's where the owner's head was at.
Oh, no.
And
Bams.
I do want, actually, this is so messed up. I do want to know where Mike's head was through all of that because there are pictures of Mike post actual death, post side, because I think he continued to travel with the sideshow a little bit. He was like taxidermied, and they had his head because they were showing like where the botched severing occurred and how they eventually found out that they had missed the brainstem and that this clot had formed, and so they have his head, and I don't know where Mike's head was this whole time, but I wonder, like, how, like, when do you decide, like, okay, this is just now? Because I don't think they even really had a way of knowing when they initially started the sideshow, like, how much, that was at, like, the height of fame, right? And obviously he only lived for, 18 months, lived for 18 months after his head was cut off. That's how long it was.
Okay.
And they were feeding him with a dropper. They didn't know the first time that he was in a sideshow how much money like I said, I get where it ended. I get why you wouldn't attempt to eat him again later, but there had to be some kind of transition, right?
Right. So, okay. So here's where I'm like, I could kind of like see, okay, all right, fine. It's probably not fake. Like all the stuff you said, like makes sense, except how did that chicken not get some sort of infection? Like, open esophagus?
So it was talked about. So they fed him with a dropper, but it was very, very common for them to have to suck phlegm out.
Oh, okay.
Right. I didn't want to tell you that. Also with a dropper. And ultimately that is what killed him, not infection, but when I first read how he ultimately died, he choked to death. And I was like, but how though?
Okay.
But it was like phlegm that they didn't get out appropriately. So it was like stuck in, yeah. Okay. So that is ultimately how Mike the Headless Chicken, ultimately perished. I wonder, I should have looked more into the owner and like what sort of life they had post Mike's money.
Sure.
But there were a couple of other things that were interesting in this deep dive, that I'm gonna share with you. So in the town in Colorado where poor Mike was initially beheaded, they do continue to have, to this day, Mike the Headless Chicken Day. It is in the town of Fruita, Colorado, and they have pin the head on the chicken and a chicken cluck off, a 5K run, like a headless chicken race, and if you ever want to go, it is the third weekend in May. is when you can report to Fruta, Colorado and celebrate Mike the Headless Chicken Day. And the other thing that I found that made me incredibly happy in the worst way is that there is actually a band called the Radioactive Chicken Heads.
Okay.
Who directly attribute their band name to Mike the Headless Chicken. Directly. They do. It's not veiled at all. And they have a song called Headless Mike that is a banger. And so, Ludo is one of my favorite bands based out of St. Louis. They're very goofy, but they're like a rock goofy. They have like very creative, fun lyrics. And honestly, the Radioactive Chicken Heads remind me that, like, the style of their lyrics remind me of Ludo. They're a smidge more metal.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And their song, Headless Mike, has been on repeat since I heard about it. And they do have other songs, obviously. I think they have 4 albums out, something like that. And like, they're like shorter songs, and they're definitely, like, that's the type of music they are, is silly, creative, goofy storytelling, while also being like, because even Ludo has some weight behind their songs for sure. It's why I love them, but it comes in a way that's like, wait, did they just say like Mike was a chicken kind of deal? Like, because in the song title is Headless Mike. It doesn't even say that he's a chicken.
Oh, so you go in there and you're completely caught off guard.
It just
like I was with this information. This is
yes,
yeah, okay,
yes. In like the first 2-3 lines that he was a chicken. But I mean, the band is called the Radioactive Chicken Heads. If you didn't expect something of the sort, but
that is bonkers. Okay,
yes.
So I have some thoughts and a question.
Okay.
Real quick. All right. So thought-wise, right? I could see. So you said something about like hunters and like having to like basically like, they usually like will field dress the animal or whatever just to like get that stuff done as soon as possible.
Yes.
And to whatever. I have to like, I imagine though, like the reason that like they need to get, separate the meat from whatever is because there's no longer any blood flow. So with Mike, there would still be blood flow because once that's like that wound is staunched, right?
Right.
So there wouldn't have been like
point. a loss of meat. Yes.
Right. And I'm also thinking like, if I were a chicken farmer, right? Okay. Come with me on this journey. If I were a chicken farmer.
Go on.
I feel like I would know, the thing about chickens. And I would be like, they have to run themselves out. Like, because I tried to chase one once probably, and it didn't go well, and it was real annoying, and I just don't want to do that. So they either like would have just been like, after, a certain amount of time, just been like, okay, well, clearly we just have to like call this one a loss because we're not going to be awake when he does die, probably. And just go get another chicken to butcher for dinner tonight.
Well, don't use your logic.
I'm sorry. I imagine there would be other chickens.
I also would
I don't
know. and see, that's an interesting thought to tie into one of my thoughts was that, like, and I thought this one through, so I wasn't necessarily going to bring it up because I found my own conclusion, but I was like, how do you mess it up that badly? No judgment. Sorry, whoever tried to kill Headless Mike. But, I mean, like, I feel like there's a good chunk to aim for, like go for the neck, not the base of the head.
Right.
But then I was thinking, like, they move and,
they do.
So that
and I expect also, like, I know that, like, the neck is really good for, like, making stock.
Yes.
So I imagine they're probably, like, trying to get the whole, like, as much as they can, but then messed it up, like, so
That's
badly.
An excellent point. I've never, and I'm actually, I wondered if I would ever find anything that I wouldn't want the answer to. And I don't think that I will Google how to butcher a chicken.
Okay, yeah.
I don't. I'm probably lying to myself and to you as well when I say that, but at this particular moment, I don't want to know the answer to that question.
Fair. Yep. Okay, but yeah. The question.
Yes.
Also is that, like, do we know how long a chicken can live without food or water? Like, what was the length of time after they decided to just, like, let him run it out to when they started providing him sustenance and care?
With the dropper?
Right.
I think that's a wonderful question. I'm honestly kind of bothered it never even occurred to me. But I'm gonna find out right this second.
All right,
and
let's
it
go.
is how if the climate is just right and isn't too warm, healthy chickens can survive for 48 hours without water.
Okay, so would it have been less than 2 days?
It would have had to been very quick decision. Although, I mean, by that point, they might have, been able to get a closer look at him and seen. This is neither here nor there, any opinions on the subject of sideshows, but it was a common thing, like two-headed animals and people were finding, rocks and saying they were dinosaur eggs. Like that was kind of the height of that sort of thing. And so that is an excellent point by saying, within 48 hours, if they got a closer look at him, just medically, it's interesting to me to place in the timeline the existence of droppers and like feeding animals with droppers and that sort of thing anyway. Yeah. But I that is a good point within, 48 hours of recognizing that this chicken isn't dying and sideshows are very much a thing and let me see what I can do kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you're right, they probably had other chickens and they probably had already killed another chicken for dinner, and at that point is kind of just see what we can do.
Man.
Now I'm going to have to look into the owner of Headless Mike.
Oh. Rest in peace.
Not how he was supposed to butcher the chicken, but just who they were.
Right. Because you're not looking that up.
I genuinely didn't. I don't think there's ever been any question where I was immediately like, nope, don't want to do that. I have a lot of weird Google searches just being in the healthcare field, but I don't think I want. I'm sure in one of the many survival books that exist, it's already in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I could talk to any of our farmer friends. Somebody is going to tell me almost against my will at some point in the future, I feel like.
Yep.
I think it's the pictures. Like, I don't want a YouTube video to pop up of how to, like...
Oof.
Yeah. But all of this is to get to the point where I just really wanted to tell you to go listen to the song Headless Mike.
Okay. Okay, by the Radioactive Chicken Heads.
Yes, the Radioactive Chicken Heads. There was nothing radioactive about Mike, just for the record.
That's good to know.
They're just edgy.
Okay.
They had to add the radioactive.
Oh my gosh.
$54,000 a month. A month. Like, there's somebody in the United States that are direct descendants from the original owner of Headless Mike living off of the investments and the money made.
We hope so.
From that. There's no way. For their sake. There's no way. $54,000 a month?
I mean, if it was a gambling issue, whatever.
I mean...
But during that time, too, like, so many people were struggling.
Right.
And to, have...
Like post-war time.
Yeah.
And to take your 50-cent chicken... I keep saying 54,000. That's like our money.
Right. No, yeah.
For them, it was 4,500, but, I mean...
But it's good to put it in that context because we can't. Yeah. If we're saying 4,500, then it's like, that's not.
That's less than I make in a month.
Yeah, like what the
I wish. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely, and that was like immediately my thought. I was like, when do you go from like, and it's the deliberate act. Nobody went and found a headless chicken. It was like, oh, you poor thing. It was like they meant to decapitate this chicken. And
they just messed up.
Yeah. But like I said, all of this was just
very lucrative way, I guess. So, jeez.
It's just a happy little accident.
Speaking of happy little accidents, I'm going to go lick a tree now. So I will talk to you later. All right?
Toodaloo!
Toodaloo!